Hello, everyone. I am Claudiu Murgan, the host of the Spiritually Inspired podcast, and my guest today is Banafsheh Sayyad. She's a master sacred dancer and living legend. She has dedicated her life to empowering people around the world to embody love. Her students regard her as a highly accessible and profound spiritual teacher. An inspiring example of radiant embodiment, her teaching is considered life-changing. Audiences experience her as a Sufi priestess, bringing the presence and power of ancient priestesses to life through her dynamic performances. Banafsheh, thank you very much for joining me today.
Hello and thank you.
Um, I know you travel the world and with dancing, and I would like to start by asking you. I've watched some of your performances, and they're quite amazing. So, how did the love for dance started for you?
Well, thank you so much. I've always danced. I've always been very passionate about dance since I was very little. So the earliest memories I have of myself are of dancing. So that has been an old passion of mine, or one that was with me from the very beginning.
And I assume these days you live in US, but by any chance, because we haven't spoken in advance, were you born in Iran?
Yes, I was born in Iran and lived there until I was 10 years old, and then moved to the UK, was there for a few years, and then a couple of years actually, and then went to the US and then back to Iran. During the Iran-Iraq war, I was living in Iran, and then left for the United States when I was 14.
So
So
in
and
other words,
have
yeah,
been living outside of Iran for many years now, because of the political situation in Iran.
yes, we understand that. So in other words, the roots of dancing came from kind of Persia, a land, a magic land with deep roots in history and tradition. So you had a very solid background.
Well, I did have the solid background spiritually, internally. Unfortunately, because dance has not have a high status in my culture. And today we see, I'm sure you're aware of the political situation in Iran. Dancing is considered sinful, just like removing the hijab that people have been doing so bravely. Dancing in public, especially by women, is seen in a similar way. It is a sin, and it is met with punishment. So that's the situation we have now. But even before this government takeover 43 years ago, uh, dance had a similar, not such an extreme wasn't regarded in such an extreme way that it was sinful, but in the general minds of the people, it wasn't something that you did if you were a person who was, intellectually driven or spiritually driven. It was just sort of thought about as something frivolous and not a high art form, basically. So I wasn't trained when I was growing up, when I was a child or a teenager, even though I danced all the time, and even though I come from a lineage of performing artists, famous performing artists, who are good dancers themselves. It just wasn't in anybody's mind, definitely not in my parents' mind, that, oh, this kid who loves dance should be trained, only because of the way dance has been regarded
Yeah,
as
it's said that
such.
a country so beautiful like Iran, with, as I said, deep spiritual and cultural roots, think like this. I mean, your food is amazing. People are great. I have Iranian friends here in Canada, so I have a touch of this type of culture. So it's said that this expression, human expression of art and liberation, is seen as a sin, and especially for women, which in fact are the embodiment of beauty and you know grace.
Yes, and this is one reason that People are out on the streets and so bravely standing up to the regime's bloody crackdown, and people everywhere outside of Iran, the Iranians outside of Iran, are also rising up so powerfully and so consistently to say that this regime has got to go, that this regime doesn't honor the basic human freedoms of just appearing as you wish, in public, freedom of expression, dancing, everything that is considered joyful and life-affirming to this regime is sinful and a case for punishment. So it's really the end of their days, and this is what many of us are dedicated to bringing about.
Yes, change is required, I think, all over the world, and especially in countries like Iran. But even I don't want to get political, but even in countries considered democratic like US and Canada and countries in Europe, change is required from the top down, because we just cannot live in, as you said, in a cage, psychologically, mentally, physically. We need to express our God-given rights. So the change
Absolutely.
has to come.
Absolutely. And you're saying you don't want to be political, but everything is political. For me, especially spirituality, especially these days where we are so called to stand up for what is true and what is good and beautiful in our world, and to make sure that that's the world that we can leave for the generations to come. Spirituality and politics really do need to meet, and spirituality needs to inform our political actions, I feel. Otherwise, then the politics is empty and it's not grounded in the recognition that we're all interconnected, and every one of us, everything that we do influences others.
Yes, I agree. And you mentioned future generations. I have kids on my own, and sometimes it's quite hard to see the way they think. And I understand that the school did a very good job on certain aspects of their thinking, and it's not easy to change a little bit their mentality or guide them towards the light, and especially spirituality. Even if they took religion in class, is not spirituality, it's just religion. And they are, I think, in my opinion, they are missing that component, which is very, very important to understand who they really are, energy being in a human body, and that the
Yeah,
fact they have a soul. And that
absolutely.
is what they should discover.
Absolutely, I'm so in agreement with you. But it's such a sensitive topic, right? Because if you want to, I totally agree that topics like that should be taught in school, but then it becomes very sensitive because others would say, "Oh no, but I don't believe that, and I believe this." So it needs to be done with great tact. But you see in Iran today the generations that are really at the forefront of this uprising, this revolution, are of the younger generations. They're under 20, and these young people seem to have seem to be embodying the tradition, the spiritual tradition that maybe generations before them have sort of forgotten about, and it's just arising in them so powerfully. The fact that they are not afraid of death shows us that they're in touch with something deathless. I mean, of course, one way you can look at this is that the situation in Iran is so dire that people feel they have no future. They are already living in a prison. So they have no choice but to speak out because they don't have a life anyway. Some of them say we are the walking dead. So why would we fear death? So that's on one side, but I really feel that more important than that is that they've connected to the immortality of the human being, and they're actually walking that and living that, which is so inspiring.
Yes, beautiful. Returning to your dance, when did you start including Sufi movements in your practice and your experiences?
Well, I have to say that when I was I said my great passion was dance growing up, and as far as back as I can remember, my other passion, as far back as I can remember, has been for the divine. Who is this powerful, invisible energy that I feel so strongly, but cannot really see, and is that what is animating us? I was very curious and sort of felt an intimacy as a child. And the first tradition that really started to speak to me about who and what is this power that I feel was Islam. And I learned about Islam through my grandmother, who practiced Islam really from her heart. She was a true Muslim, and I was very inspired by her teachings. But then experienced the 1979 revolution in Iran, the Islamic Revolution, and I became quickly very disillusioned. Even though I was a child, I could see that some really crazy things were happening, and the violence that was happening in the name of this tradition confused me, because what happened to the teachings of my grandmother? What happened to all that beauty and peace and respect and love for your neighbor and for others as yourself? You know, all that she had taught me. So having become so disillusioned with that and not finding answers anywhere, I just unexpectedly found Rumi. And that one day where I opened a book of the Ghazaliyot Shams, his book of poetry, that was when I got invited into this other way of thinking, where Islam was a gateway, sort of the outer gate, and then the invitation to go into the heart was what I felt. And then, so from there, this love affair began with what I was feeling coming through Rumi's poetry. And later, I began turning. It just arrived for me. I hadn't really seen the whirling dervishes. I just started turning, and I must have seen it somewhere. Some people, I can see behind you the beautiful image. I must have seen it somewhere that I became inspired to do this, but I had never really seen them do it. So I was just turning for hours and hours at night, and it was both amazing and very, very frightening, because it was something that I couldn't stop doing. I was led to go deeply into this journey, and through the whirling, sort of unmask myself and come in touch with some of the places in myself that I didn't believe in, the greater places in myself that you can say were dark. So coming face to face with this through the whirling and continuing to whirl no matter what was both incredible and extremely frightening. So it started like that for me. Probably I was around 20 that this emerged and became a practice. And then I saw the whirling dervishes, and then I went also to Turkey and joined dervishes there, and the rest is just a history, I would say.
So, in other words, dancing for you is also spiritual experience. And if we go back to the political aspect of what we discussed, maybe governments overall don't want us to have these type of spiritual experiences, which will open up new windows in our consciousness, and we will understand again that we are meant to have different type of lives, different type of existences, and the governments are there not to oppress us, but to serve us, because they're supposed to be public servants. So it's like the same thing, I think, with psychedelics. They are not, taken in a safe environment, they open you up to the divine. They don't create any dependency. So that's why I think the governments are trying to encroach on our rights, because they don't want us to become enlightened, to see who we really are.
Yeah. Especially the relationship between dance and religion. You know, Islam is not the only religion that tries to limit and restrict dance and ban it, etc. You can also see that in Christianity. institutionalized religions seem to not favor dance, because it puts us in touch with an energy in us that does not need a broker between us and the divine. And you start to really feel within yourself the energy of the divine. You start to feel both the immanent divinity, and you have a deep connection with the transcendent divinity. And this is absolutely not what institutionalized religions want, because they want to control the minds of their followers and put themselves in between the human being and the divine. And dance basically shatters all of that and says, you don't need anyone to broker this relationship. You are it. You are one with the one. And especially, sacred dance, something like whirling, the saman, is a practice that you start to feel empowered and unlimited. So what kind of institutionalized system, be it a religion or a government, wants that, then the people are too free to be controlled.
Yes, and just an example came to my mind. We all know that the telecommunication companies, maybe once or twice a year, they get together, discuss price and strategies, not as competitors, but as allies. And the same goes for big corporations. So what if also the leaders of various religions get together and say, okay, we are not going to allow our churchgoers to do this or do that. So we are all in agreement. So we don't have an exodus from Christianity to Muslim or the other way around, or to Judaism. Sorry. So they all get together and have this type of understanding. They all oppress us with the same measures. So we don't find one religion more appealing than the other. Could be a way of doing it.
Yeah.
What can you share with us in terms of your spiritual experiences, either related to dancing or non-relating to dancing? Something which marked you for the extension of your life.
Oh wow, what a great question. There have been so many experiences. Where would I be able to begin from? I can say, well, let me, what comes to mind is a performance that I did. I used to tour a lot before the pandemic, and now sort of starting back again slowly, finding my feet again, so to speak, in the world outside of Zoom, because everything I've been doing in the past 2 years has been on Zoom, basically. But before that, I was touring a lot and performing mostly with musicians. I love that immediacy of dance with live music, and a lot of the work that I do, especially solo work that I do, is structured improvisation. So we have, we have some agreements in terms of how do we start and how do we end, and sort of what rhythm patterns we're going to be working with. But outside of that, everything else is improvised, so that it's not something that becomes stale. It's being created in the moment, and there's an immediacy to that I absolutely love. So this was one performance we were doing that we had been touring, and in one of these cities that we had gone to, one of these evenings, I decided before going on stage, I usually pray. I usually do like a focus intention, a meditation, a focus intention before I go on stage, sort of a dedication of the evening to a certain intention, let's say. And so in this one evening, I was very curious. So I said to the beloved, the energy that I'm always dedicating my dance to, I said, I want to really feel you tonight. I want to really feel you tonight. Will you please let me experience you in a new way? I want to only hear you and only see you. So this was my intention. And thinking, could this happen? Could this happen tonight? So I go on stage, And as I'm dancing, I stop hearing the music entirely. There is really no music, but I'm still dancing. I'm dancing to, I'm not sure now, I don't remember now what it was that I was hearing, but I know it wasn't the music that the musicians were playing. And it was just a completely different experience, a completely new experience. And after the performance finished, the musicians, the guys came to me and they said, "Wow, we felt you were more in sync with us tonight than ever. That was very interesting. What happened?" And I was like, "I was in sync with you guys. I couldn't hear a single note you played." So it was a very magical, mysterious thing that happened that evening. And because I was curious, sama, the whirling means to listen, right? It means to listen, and it's the listening that takes us into the movement. And of course, you listen to the music and surrender to the sound as a practice to surrendering to something greater. So I was playing with that and asking to just surrender directly to something greater without the music as the vehicle. And it happened. And apparently I was more in sync than ever. So that was incredible.
Beautiful. And over the years, do you feel that some audiences are responding better than the others based on cultural background or country or even city?
That's a really great question too. No, I mean, it's been so amazing to see the way people relate. The language of dance, the language of music is universal, and it truly is. Sometimes you have people who connect with the dance that really have no background in how to watch dance, because you sort of need that kind of background, right? I would say in general, because in Iran we have had this sort of dance has been a taboo for so long. It's not very easy for people to look at dance and sort of understand the language of dance as much as it is for a culture in the West, Western cultures that are more used to dance, or people. Or the Russians, they're very used to dance, right? And they can look at dance and appreciate it and know differences very well. For Iranians, I can't say that's true. They're learning. They're starting to understand the language of dance more and more and more. But till now, it's been much more subjective. What is it that they like about it? It's hard to pinpoint. But what I would say is very interesting a lot of times, because I'm always interested in why do we dance? Why are you doing this performance? Why should I watch you? What is the reason? And this reason is not heady, of course. It's more heart-based. So I'm always asking myself that. And that's part of what I was saying to you about dedication and intention before I do a performance and offering. I remember another time where I was clear with my intention, and I went on stage and I did what I did. And there were people who were, I'm not sure where they were from, but they were European, somewhere in Europe. And this group of people, this few people came to me, and they basically spoke to me totally exactly what my intention had been. They said, "This is what we saw, this is what we felt." And it was just so amazing to receive that kind of confirmation that something that I'm feeling, that it could be communicated like that.
Yeah, so you are feeling, in fact, gratitude for the audience when they recognize the feelings and the energy you put into to offer beauty.
Yeah, and it's just so amazing that we really see each other, don't we? When we sort of step outside for a moment, or for just briefly step outside of our habitual judgments, we can receive so much from each other. We can pick up so much intuitively. And but it's also what I also say to my students. I'm always asking them, why are you doing this? Why do you dance? And I ask all artists that, why do you play your music? Why do you do this painting? To be in touch with the intention that, again, I will say is not a heady one, but one that's based in the heart. Then that brings a clarity into the work that touches someone else quite readily. And of course, as artists, we're open to interpretation of others, because we sort of, meaning comes from a shared experience. It's not just what the artist intends, but what then becomes a shared experience. Many times people have told me what they saw gave me more information about what I'm doing. Or if I'm reading a review by someone, and I heard you say some words that were from a testimonial written by an audience member. These people, when they give feedback, I start to understand much more about what I'm doing. So at the same time that the artist's intention is very important for ourselves, we need to also be open to that collective meaning making, let's say, or the communal meaning making.
Yes, and I agree, because when I write, I write for sharing. I don't necessarily write only for myself. There are messages which I think are very important to be spread out in the world, and people to read, analyze them, think about it, and take action. So writing is my way of contributing to the betterment of the world, of the society, and telling people, as we discussed, that they can connect directly with the divine in a story, with examples, with parables, and people at one point or the other will understand what they are meant to be, what they are meant to do in this existence. So each of us has its own way of transporting people to a different level of consciousness, different plane of understanding. So I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And what I hear from what you're saying is that we're channels, right? We channel what we believe in, and then let that sort of guide us and into how we touch others, and what we're meant to really bring and expand into the world. In dance, it becomes very clear that if you're interested, that you are a channel. And what we love to talk about, especially whirlers love to talk about or love to connect with, is this idea of being danced, being whirled, so that you're not doing it, but you're a vessel. You're a vessel for something higher to manifest in the world.
Yes. And I always tell myself to stay grounded and humble, because that's very important. And as you said, not getting into my head, because I'm just a vessel, I'm just a temporary vessel, and I have to behave. And the more I behave, the more messages I get, or the more content goes through me, flows through me.
Totally. I wish more of the world leaders could hear what you just said,
Oh,
because
sorry,
that
they
is
don't
so
hear. They are deaf. They are deaf to our pleas. They are deaf to anything that it's happening and surrounding them, which doesn't fit their bill. So again, even for me, sometimes it's hard to contain myself and not say something bad about these guys. And I'm trying to send them my love, because otherwise, we all gonna fall into the same abyss they are already at the bottom at. So.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I do agree with calling out what's wrong, whether it's within ourselves or what we witness in the world. I feel is so important. For 43 years in my country, people who spoke out have been imprisoned and killed and basically silenced. And now there's been an eruption of like, no, we won't stay silent anymore. When as Martin Luther King Jr. says, when you and I'm not saying the exact words, I'm sure, but the feeling in the words are, you start to die the moment you become silent about what is wrong in the world. So I hear what you're saying about sending love and the energy that could melt the hearts of those who have lost touch with their hearts. But at the same time, we need to really call out what is not right, within and without.
Yes, and because we're talking about the feminine movement, we are in the Aquarius age right now, and the feminine is coming through, and especially in Iran. But at the same time, it is a very disturbing movement against the feminine. A mother is not a mother anymore; it's just a birthing body, and there are other terms which are trying to be discontinued or replaced from our vocabulary. Why do you think is that happening?
Yeah, this is concerning to me too. It is concerning, and it is important to not immediately take a position and just kind of see more of a see it within the context of what of the greater, and not really just get focused in on what you're saying, which is very concerning. It is important to hold the other side as well, and to speak out like you're saying, of like we need to be careful, we need to pay attention and not let our minds become so wide open in the including all possibilities of being, where some then become debunked or something, or defunct, where naturally that is not the case. So to not honor the mothering body is a big concern. And at the same time, I don't want to close my mind against what these people are saying and what they're claiming, but to see the larger perspective, larger context of where this is coming from and why, and basically not be silent, not be quiet. But to your other point, I feel like this eruption of the feminine, especially in that is happening in Iran, is very interesting, because Iran is one of the places where the feminine is most oppressed. There are other places, of course, like Afghanistan. Afghanistan is probably worse, but Iran is up there with the level of oppression. And to see that from one of the most oppressive, one of the darkest corners of patriarchy, where the feminine is so oppressed, not just women, but the land itself has been so neglected and so robbed and raped, that the eruption of the feminine is coming out so powerfully, with this slogan, woman, life, freedom. It's like it's coming from the heart of the great mother, calling to us to look and don't stay silent, and rise up for all of the things that you believe are life affirming. So what you're saying to me is life affirming, and to be vigilant about it, to be vigilant about we are open to all kinds of genders and sexual preferences, and it shouldn't be dictated by anyone who to say what how
To live your life,
sexual
yes.
preference should be expressed. But then some things become too far. What you're just saying, this kind of the obscuring of the role of the mother, of the mothering body and the woman's body. All of these things we can't remain silent about, even if it sounds like it's politically incorrect. That's what I feel.
Yes, and I had a quarrel with my wife because she wanted me to get pregnant, and I said no. Yes. Let's talk about your programs and your teaching methods, please.
Sure. What would you like to know?
You founded Nama, I think, with which in pre-Sanskrit language of Avesta means reverence and greeting. So, what was the purpose of the school?
Oh, so Nama is the name of my dance company. This is the dance company that I founded years ago, and we've toured and we've done all kinds of work. What I'm mostly focused on now is called Dance of Oneness. That's the program. That's a teaching program, and it's a dance style. So people can certify as teachers or as performers. And Dance of Oneness is about really bringing in three streams. It brings together three streams. One is dance and movement technique, both rigorous training and expression, self-expression, rigorous self-expression. And in that stream, I draw from my experience, my background in flamenco, Tai Chi, and Persian dance, modern dance, all of that in the container, the crucible of the whirling. So bringing it all together within that. Other stream, the second stream, is wisdom teachings. So the wisdom teachings are drawn from the Sufi and from the divine feminine, the goddess tradition, and Taoist tradition. So these are the wisdom teachings. And then the third stream is healing. Already to embody wisdom teachings through dance, dancing these ideas and letting these ideas be embodied in us is healing in itself. But I also bring in the dimension of Chinese medicine. I have a background in acupuncture and herbology. So I bring in the meridian, the understanding, the experience of the meridians, as well as the chakra system to that stream. So when you have these three streams coming together, then I feel like you can experience more of a wholeness. And like you said as you were introducing me, you learn how to embody love. That's the aim.
Yeah, it's very interesting, especially the latest program, which includes the healing component, mind, body, soul, sort of trauma these days, especially in the last 3 years. And I think people need a lot of healing, and I don't think we are through with the trauma. In my opinion, at least the trauma will intensify for another 2 or 3 years. And we have to be mentally prepared for what's coming, not to scare people, but I think it's a reality that what's coming might be even harder to comprehend than what we went through already.
Yeah, and in addition to being mentally prepared, to be bodily, physically prepared, and emotionally prepared. I feel like when we have a practice, a physical practice, you're able to not just survive but also thrive. Right? For myself, if I don't do my daily practice, I feel completely off. So this kind of using a physical practice that brings together mind, body, heart, and connects you with your soul, gives you the opportunity to have more capacity, so that you don't become as overwhelmed or as taken over by things that happen. And we have so many extraordinary situations in every day of our lives these days, right? Things that we had no idea could happen. What is happening in Iran, for example, and COVID, for example, just out of the blue. So all of these things, the more we are able to anchor ourselves through a physical practice that brings together the different aspects of ourselves, the more chance we have to survive actually, and then hopefully thrive.
Yes, indeed. Are you planning any programs for 2023? Any traveling?
A great question. All my students are asking me that. I'm making that transition from online to in person, and even though everything used to be in person and nothing was online for me before, now it's like to make that transition is a little bit challenging. I'm planning a journey to Turkey, hopefully, because I was always going to Turkey. At least once a year before the pandemic, we would have an extended retreat in Turkey, and so hopefully returning to that. Definitely Chartres, France, another one that I do annually, is also on the books. But yeah, I'm open to see what will manifest. A lot of online programs still, so maybe a combination of online and in person is what is the best way to go. Because what has happened with online dancing, Dance of Oneness online, what has happened is that people can join so easily from all over the world, as you know, with many other online offerings. Whereas before it would have been more challenging to come to these different parts of the world with the travel and all of the expenses involved. So I'm hoping to continue the online aspect for people who can't come and join in person as readily, but definitely in person as well.
Thank you. Banafsheh, we are approaching the end of the interview. Any final thoughts?
Well, final thoughts or final suggestions to your audience, to the people listening to us, to really take seriously physical practice, and to find one that works for you, that you can resonate with, that you can align yourself to, because as you said, things are coming down hard, I'm afraid. You know, we've already experienced so many challenges, but it's going to be even harder given the, we're still in code red, and this red is getting deeper and deeper, environmentally. So to be able to withstand what is coming and to be of real service, we need to keep ourselves energized and peaceful and in a state where we can be present more than maybe we are now, and to respond from a place that is embodied and heartful. So a physical practice is my recommendation to the people listening to us, and to let through this physical practice be more and more in touch with your purpose, what you truly love and what you would give your life for, and revisit that every day and dedicate yourself to it.
Wise words. Thank you very much for your time today. It was a lovely discussion.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your invitation.
Thank you. And for my viewers, thank you for watching. Share it, like it, visit my website and download a free copy of my book. And until next time, love and gratitude.